Michael Myers. Welcome to my horror confessional, where every week I will have a guest come on and talk about one classic horror movie that they haven't seen and why. We'll discuss the movie, the actors, and probably get off topic quite a bit. Once I believe that they have properly atoned, I will absolve them of their horror movie sin. This week, we have our first returning guest, Zach Chapman. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Hey, so I got a question. You just said all of that stuff right here, right now. That's crazy. Why don't you just cut it to where you say, hey, Zach, that sounds hard.
Yeah, but it's like my routine. It gets me into the feeling.
Dave does it too, and I'm like, man, I'm so lazy. I wouldn't do that. I would
yeah,
just.
Yeah, but then it gets like
robotic, huh? It would sound robotic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm also too lazy to record that, and I'm just like day of.
Good job on that, though.
That was pretty tight, right?
Yeah, that sounded good.
Typically, what I do here is I will give my guest, like a really nice introduction, but I already did that for you. So
I'm the first person to be on twice.
That's true.
So I get a whole. Andrew can hold it above me that he was the first person on the show, but I'm the first person on there twice. And I think that's more important.
That is more important. I will just say, though, that you are, since we last talked, you started working on your Kickstarter for House of Blood.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to be live, but it will be live at some point. It's a lot of cool, it's going to be 13 short stories, all horror. I don't want to say EC, but like they're the same length as like an EC short story, like 8 pages to 15. And we have a story together, and we're just waiting for it to get colored, and it's supposed to be colored this month. So,
and I'll say it's better than EC in that they're not morality tales.
No, not always.
Yeah,
or not most.
Zach
of the time.
has no morals.
Yeah, well, the thing about EC is like they're very predictable because it's always like someone bad does something bad to someone else and then dies.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sometimes it's all bad people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's one robber does something bad to another robber and then they all get fucked up or something like that.
Yeah. But they're all very predictable. And I have like a similar format, but I try to switch it up. I try to keep it fresh. And I was thinking a lot about that and like technology and kind of integrating things like cell phones. I know it's like when you watch a lot of horror movies, a lot of the horror movies that we grew up on, a cell phone, there's a lot of comfort in a cell phone, and there's a lot of comfort in all the interconnectedness, and that's so when you think you have the availability of a cell phone, like that pushes away all the horror.
Yeah. So
I think in a lot of stories that I wrote, I was like rethinking that, and a lot of the horror comes from, it's not technological horror, but some of the stories, like, they take place now, so there are cell phones, and I don't know, I was thinking about that today, just because someone on Twitter...
I saw that. It reminds me of, like, you've seen It Follows, right?
Yeah.
It Follows feels like a timeless story. It feels like it's in the 70s or 80s, and it could be today. They even had remember the cell phone?
That was weird, yeah.
It was like a flip phone, looked like a compact or something like that. So you don't know. And I find, like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I do know that there's been some horror in which they have a cell phone, and it doesn't matter. It's not going to save them anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the scariest thing, because, like you're saying, the cell phone is like your connection to the rest of the world, your lifeline. And when you have it, and it doesn't do anything to save you, that's really fucking scary.
Yeah, I think a lot of horror is based around isolation, but some really effective horror, like a lot of Junji Ito stuff, is actually not about isolation, which is weird coming from the culture that he comes from. A lot of it is isolation horror, but there's horror in the way we connect with people, and that's interesting too. And if you think about it, just like how technology works, like it can always go wrong, or like in Friday the 13th, why don't they just go pick up a phone? They had phones, they could have called. Well, there's always a solution to that. Like it's in Get Out, which is a perfect in Get Out, which is a perfect movie, they have to deal with cell phones because that takes place now, and they deal with it by the constant, lady takes the charger out of his cell phone.
Yeah.
The maid does. The spoiler alert, the grandma does. So.
So we've already gotten off topic.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good on. Well, all your other episodes are fucking super long.
4 hours long.
Yeah.
I look to you for the 1 hour episodes.
Sorry, I already fucking that up.
No, but I can't let you get past the introduction of the episode before asking you. The last time you were on, we saw Friday the 13th, right? Part 1, you had never seen. And at the end, I gave you some homework.
I got some bad news for you, buddy.
I assigned to you 3 movies. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Peeping Tom, and Black Christmas. Have you seen any of those movies?
I got some good news for you.
Okay.
I have seen the Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warrior.
Okay.
And I really liked it. Yeah. I thought it was great. This is good for the sequel episode because I actually watched it, and Tim gave it to me because he listened to the episode and he said, "You gotta watch it." And it's kind of. I know people say that Freddy's like a jokester, but I wasn't feeling like he does have like a couple one-liners in that movie, like one-liners.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was an effective villain, and I liked the premise a lot, which is there are these kids that are in a psych ward, and they're getting killed off because when they go to sleep, Freddy kills them, and they don't want to go to sleep, and they're in a psych ward because everyone thinks they're crazy, right? And that's just a great premise. And then Nancy, I forget her last name. But the main character from the first one comes in and is like an assistant at the ward. And she's like, helps fight off Freddy, which is really cool. I haven't seen the sequel, the second one. But yeah, I thought it served as like a great sequel to the first one. Yeah. I liked it more than the first one, if I'm going to be honest.
There are two different types of movies. I feel like part 1 is a straight up horror suspense movie. Part 3 is like, I don't know, like balls to the wall, like
weird fight back. Like we fight back, which is cool. I mean, there's still a lot of people that die in that. Most of the characters die in that movie.
Yeah, but it was good. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. I like how you went past the other two, Peeping Tom and Black Christmas. How did you enjoy those?
So. Peeping Tom, I don't have, but I have Black Christmas because Tim gave it to me, and I'm just waiting to watch it. Okay, I'm gonna watch it at some point.
I'm just messing with you. I'm really happy you liked Part 3, Dream Warriors, because I think that's a lot of people's favorite Freddy. Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a good movie.
I liked it more than Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So. Last time we talked about your history with horror movies, so I want to specifically ask you, what's your history with zombie movies, the zombie horror, like the genre? Do you enjoy the genre? Do you not like it? Where does it rank in your tier of horror genres?
I like it a lot. I used to be really into it when I was in college, which was like kind of when everyone was starting to get into it.
Yeah.
I started getting into it in high school. I watched in high school 28 Days Later, which is a really good movie, and I'd recommend that to anyone. And that was kind of like the first dip that I got into. And then I've seen all of the Romero ones, and I love the Romero ones. Mm-hmm. I read like over 100 issues of Walking Dead in college and after. So I got really into it, and just like the idea of like the social commentary is cool, but then also like what are you gonna do? When I was younger, it was always like, oh, what would I do in this situation? Like, oh, I would survive, and like, like I used to be a huge gun nut, And so, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, well, we would go out to the ranch and we would be like,
Okay.
we would totally survive. I'm not a prep or anything, but it's like cool. It's fun to think about, you know?
Okay, you say that you used to be a gun nut, yet when I walked into your home today, on the coffee table, was a clip and what's 5 or 6 bullets just on the coffee table.
Okay, but do I own that gun?
Okay, doesn't matter. I'm just saying, you get used to be.
But I don't. I
You know
used to own that gun.
You know how many bullets I have in my house? How many clips I have in my house? 20,000. So try to come in my house if you want. I don't actually have any. Just don't want to put that out there.
Well, I don't know. I'm a Southern guy, so like I got guns and stuff. So
Yeah.
I have like an average amount of guns in the house for a Southern person, I would say. But yeah, like it's fun to think about. It's fun to watch, and it's fun to read. I really got into The Walking Dead. My favorite Romero movie. I like all 3 of them quite a bit. Oh well, there's more than 3.
Yeah, the most famous 3, right?
Yeah, I like the most famous 3 a lot. But I've rewatched Night of the Living Dead probably 3 or 4 times. That's the one I've seen the most, which I think is a really good movie, and it created the genre. Because before that, it was just vampires, basically, and voodoo zombies, which are different than... We'll get into that, but we'll get into that because that has to do with this movie. But a technical voodoo zombie is different from what was in this movie.
Like White Zombie.
White Zombie from like 31 or 32.
I Walked with a Zombie.
Yeah.
Which is another one like that as well, yeah.
So those are more like zombie slaves, like people who are mindless, but they're not trying to eat your brains. Anyways, so yeah, that's the one is really good. I've seen that movie a lot, or like 4 or 5 times, but I like the one that I like the most. And I need to rewatch them all, but I really like Day of the Dead because I think it's like it has this atmosphere and like the way it works with the military and how but the scientists are really shitty, which is cool. I like that commentary.
I think at that point, like, Romero had gotten very... I don't want to say he got cynical, but the story got very cynical. And, like, that's the most bleak, if you can say that, in a world that's been taken over by zombies. Like, well, Romero has always been, like, using his movies for social commentary, right? Didn't seem like he was a big fan of the military-industrial complex and all that. So, the military was the bad guys in that one. Thinking back on it now, I really enjoyed the third one as well. But Dawn of the Dead is just so much fun. And I think I was talking to our friend of the show, Max Booth, about it. I think he was saying that Days is his favorite as well now.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we should get together and rewatch it. But I want to rewatch Dawn as well, because that's the one I've seen the least, and that's the one that I probably like the least, but, I think it's worth a rewatch. I like them all a lot.
Yeah, it's just like, what social commentary do you want? Do you want to talk about consumerism and capitalism? That's Dawn of the Dead. If you want to talk about, like, the military-industrial complex and, like, the patriarchy and, like, violence against women and, like, I think even, like, homophobia or, like, racism is in there as well, then that's, like, Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
And Night of the Living Dead was just there was probably the movie I've rewatched the most, except for Halloween. So I love Night of the Living Dead. I'm actually going to be seeing it later in October at the Draft House. They're showing the color version of it, which I'm okay with it, but I've never seen it on the big screen, so I'm really excited about it.
Is it like a colorized where someone like painted the...
Yeah, because it was shot in black and white, so that's the only thing. Yeah.
So they're just painting film.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. I don't know if I would like that, but...
I didn't really care for the color part of it, but I just wanted to see it on the big screen, so we'll see how that goes. But okay, so today you've come on to say your second sin, or another sin you have, and it is that you've never watched
Zombie 2? With Zombie
2,
with an I, too?
Yeah, from 1979.
See, and this is less predictable because the first episode I was on, I'm not huge into slashers. Like, it's not my genre. But the other thing I like about Zombies is it teeters on post-apocalyptic, which is potentially like a subset of science fiction, which I love. Mm-hmm. And this one was just I've always wanted to watch this movie. It's always been on my radar, but I've never had the chance. Like, it has such a fucking iconic cover. Like, it's this zombie with these fucked up teeth and worms like coming out of his eye. Yeah. Like, I've always wanted to watch it. So glad I finally got to it.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask, like, why you think you haven't seen it. It sounds like it's just one of those movies that was on your list that just kept getting bumped down.
Yeah, man, I'm into the genre, and it just...
Also, while it's iconic, I think it's iconic for genre fans, not so much with the bigger... Like, if you were to tell somebody you've never seen Friday, or Nightmare... No, Jesus. If you were to tell somebody you've never seen Friday the 13th, they'd be like, what? So it's a little bit more understandable, but, like, this one is, like, a deeper cut. I think with horror fans, it's more popular than with the general public. So I think maybe you just not having access to it. But this one was in Shudder, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And we saw it yesterday, which is cool. So this was directed by Lucio Fulci, also known as the Godfather of Gore, the Spaghetti Splatter King, or the Horror Maestro. Those are his three names, which are dope-ass nicknames.
I get it. Yeah. I totally get it.
And this is the only movie so far that you've seen.
I think so. Like, I've seen not a lot. I've seen several Italian horror films. Yeah. But none of them that were this graphic. So, and then I looked at a list of films that he had done. Yeah. And I don't believe I've watched any of them. So.
Yeah. So he's most famous, I would think, for his Gates of Hell trilogy, which includes City of the Living Dead. He's most famous for his Gates of the Hell trilogy, which includes City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and The House by the Cemetery. And we'll get to those movies later on. And it was written by Elisa Brigante, who also wrote The Bronx Warriors, or also known as 1990, The Bronx Warriors, which, friend of the show, Tim, has a poster of that in his, had it. He took it down recently, and I've always wanted to see it, but I haven't seen it yet. But I just thought it was kind of cool that this movie was written by a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And before we get started, I just want to say that my resources for the episode is like Wikipedia, IMDb, and then this website called lwlies.com. So I used a couple other ones, but they were like really minimal, so I don't feel like I need to do that here. But those are the main resources. And then you already mentioned this, but despite being called Zombie 2, the film is not a sequel to anything. There's no Zombie 1. When Dawn of the Dead, which was released in 1978, it was released as Zombie in Italy. And then this film was retitled Zombie 2 to cash in on the success of the American film. So this was done by the studio without Fulci's permission or his knowledge. And he was always pissed about that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I went on Wikipedia and I looked a little bit into this, and I was just shocked that that you could do that. Like that they must have had some kind of license deal to do that. Or did they? Because it seems kind of illegal to just call yourself a sequel to, what is it, Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead?
It was Dawn of the Dead.
So, yeah, that movie is a sequel and has, we were just talking about it. It has Day of the Dead. Yeah. So that's confusing to someone outside of Italy, but it's also probably confusing to someone in Italy, right?
Yeah, I should have looked it up, but I wonder what they named Day of the Dead in Italy.
Yeah.
Because if Dawn of the Dead was Zombie in Italy, then, But that's... I think copyright laws were a little bit more lax. I feel like they're more lax outside the United States.
Well, yeah.
Because yeah, I know like in China and even like in Mexico, they'll have like
They don't care.
stores that are named like Walmart.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care. So it is what it is.
That's kind of... I would be upset if someone just slapped a 2 on my movie and renamed it. Like, I wonder what he wanted the original title to be.
Well, yeah, I don't know. He was happy that in America they released it under the title that he wanted, which is just Zombie. So he was
Okay,
happy
cool.
with that.
So we're calling it the movie that we watched in Shudder is called just Zombie.
Zombie, yeah.
Cool.
Zombie. I'm sorry, Zombi. But it was also released as like Zombie Flesh Eaters or like Zombie 2, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, in those days, I think the distributors would just name it whatever they want. I think when they distribute a movie, they have the right to call it whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean,
you
whether
kinda
it's
sell your soul when you sell like the distribution rights, right?
Yeah.
Well, you've already did that. All right, so let's get started talking about this movie. So the movie starts, and a man fires a bullet into the head of a body wrapped in a sheet. He says to an off-screen person, "The boat can leave now. Tell the crew." Several days later, an apparently abandoned sailboat sails into New York Harbor. 2 officers of the Harbor Patrol board the boat to investigate and find the living quarters in squalor and disarray. They are suddenly attacked by a rotting, bloated zombie, which bursts from the hold, gorily killing one officer by biting his throat out, before being shot and propelled overboard by the second officer. This is a great scene here. But what I wanted to say is the film was written before Dawn of the Dead was released in Italy. And it was written as an action-adventure thriller with no link to Romero's film, like we talked about earlier. The opening and closing scenes, which take place in New York, were added to the script later when the producers wanted to cash in on the success of Dawn of the Dead. So they just added these 2 like rap scenes.
Well, they're great.
Yeah.
They are good, and they actually match perfectly with the movie.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you're not like, why the fuck were we in New York? We know we're going to find out why we're in New York in a little bit, right? Because the daughter and the father and the newspaper man and all that.
I'm kind of shocked that this movie was written before Dawn of the Dead, because there's, well, with those little sandwiched scenes, but also the climax of this movie, they're just... When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, this owes so much to Romero. This owes so much to Romero," and it is like a decade after, right?
Yeah, because
so
9 came out in '68.
I mean, and the zombies. Spoiler alert: the zombie that bites that cop. I mean, it functions not like a Haitian voodoo zombie, but it functions like what's in our lexicon, which is like the zombie that Romero created when he couldn't get the vampire right.
Yeah. Well, I will say that it's a little bit of both, because what they were saying was when the screenwriter was writing it, she was going for bringing back the roots of, like you're saying, the Haitian voodoo, bringing it back to like its Caribbean or its island roots. And so their heads are, for most of I don't remember for this first zombie we see here, but most of the other zombies have their heads down and their arms at their sides and are shambling, as opposed to Romero's zombies, especially in the first one in Night of the Living Dead, where they have their arms out and like their heads are up and they're like, actively trying to reach somebody.
Yeah, but I mean, the caveat that I would say is that the zombies are in this film are trying to eat people. Zombies don't want, like, the traditional zombie is not interested in flesh or anything like that, or brains, or
When
they
you
don't
say
bite.
traditional, you mean the Haitian?
Yeah, a Haitian zombie, like, you couldn't bite someone and then turn a zombie. If a zombie bit you, if a Haitian zombie bit you, that's not how they reproduce. Like, it's all through like voodoo.
Yeah.
And usually they're people that are used on plantations. So they're like basically, it's like a slave allegory or whatever. Mm. So I don't know. That's why I felt like, oh, this is like it came right after Romero. It's zombies are eating flesh. So that's why they seem so much like Romero zombies to me. Because back then there wasn't the lexicon of what you and I think of as zombies.
But to remember that Romero zombies were infectious, right? So like you're saying, so a Romero zombie, when it bites you, it create another zombie, unless you're shot in the head. Whereas these don't.
But then they kind of do, though. They kill you.
They definitely kill you. They eat you and all that. But as far as I'm remembering, we don't see anybody else turn.
No, we'll get to that. Spoiler alert, the very end. That's why they bring that guy.
Or is it that they got sick? You're right.
It is. Yeah. It's like
this will all be deleted.
They hint at it so much like it's a virus.
Yeah. But in fact, they're getting bit. That was never clear.
I mean,
let's talk. Let's move on. But let's talk about it because now I'm getting a bit confused with it. So.
You were that fucking character, that doctor. That was you this whole movie.
Off topic, but I was watching that episode of Always Sunny where it's Thunder
Gun
4.
Yeah.
And they're doing an audience testing thing.
Yeah.
And like they're asking everybody and Charlie's like, what's going on? He had a son? Like that's all we've been talking about for the past 2 minutes. He's like, that was not clear. That's basically me right there. So a local reporter named Peter West, who's played by Ian McCulloch, is assigned by his hard-nosed editor, who is a cameo by the director, Lucio Fulci, to the case. That evening he meets up with Anne, played by Tisa Farrell, the daughter of the boat's missing owner. She's informed the police that she has not seen her father for the past 3 months since he traveled to the Antilles. Meanwhile, at the morgue, the pathologist and his assistant are preparing to perform an autopsy on the dead police officer when, unknown to them, the dead body begins stirring. So here, does anything come of this body?
Yeah. I mean, that scene ends, it cuts, then, we're off in either the Caribbean or wherever we're following other characters, but that's kind of the missing link with the very, very final scene, which is the shambling people in New York. So that's how...
Wow.
Miguel!
Jesus Christ!
God damn it, Miguel!
So, okay, to be... Well, fine. I was gonna say...
We're gonna have to delete this whole thing. You gotta watch the movie.
To be fair, this is only the second time I've seen this movie, but I was gonna say, but this is the first time you saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't link the two. I swear to God, I didn't.
Yeah, so, that I thought that was a neat little thing that it really doesn't pick back up, like, for the entire movie, like, because this is very early in the movie where it barely just cuts, where maybe that body wasn't really moving, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But you forgot to mention 2 things. One, this motherfucker, the reporter, is essentially Stan Lee. The person who owns the publishing house is his uncle, and this dude is bald as fuck, and he's trying to press it off like he's not. He's also super old, like Stan Lee, even at the time when he was getting popular in the 60s. This dude is super old, and he's trying to hook up with this, like, young lady, and he does this super smooth move when they're on the boat, and they're not supposed to, like, he's trespassing, and I guess technically she is too, because it's a crime scene, even though it's her father's boat, and the cop comes in, and he's like, oh, here, I have an idea, and then it cuts to them, like, making out, acting like they're about to have sex, and then the cop's, like, supposed to, the cop's like, oh, okay, get out of here, you two, Yeah. And it's just like, man, this guy we're supposed to believe this guy is smooth. And I guess he's smooth because he's got, like, a British accent.
Yeah.
But, like, man, he's a little rough on the eyes.
Well, I think he has, like, a really good head of hair from the front. But then, like, we both, like, he at one point he turns around and we both were like, whoa. Like, he's missing, like, it's not just the crown of his head. And I'm not bald shaming, but it's like...
own that shit, dude.
It's like an inch above his hairline, straight back to like, his neck is just bald. I've never seen that type of pattern before.
It was an optical illusion.
It was. It's like barely held together hair. You know?
We don't bald shame here, but y'all bald motherfuckers better own it, alright?
Yeah, don't try to cover it up. Is all
Yeah.
I'm saying. I mean, I'm almost there. I still feel it. When I put my hand on the crown of my head, it feels warm. So I know it's just a couple.
Well, so does mine.
Really?
So does mine.
Okay, because nowhere else does it, but just on the crown, and I feel like there's less insulation there. So I don't know. Hillary's got me. I have to worry more about the front losing my hairline than my back.
Man, you have a lion's mane.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome to the men's podcast.
The Rogaine, sponsored by Rogaine.
Sponsored by Rogaine and Hims. The next morning, Peter and Ann fly to the Dominican Republic and meet an American tourist couple named Brian Hull and Susan Barrett, who are about to embark on a sailing tour of the Caribbean. What was the first thing you noticed about Susan?
Yo, Susan's just tits out, and it's like it doesn't stop there. It continues.
Yeah, there's a scene later on where she's fully naked.
She's pretty much fully naked.
Yeah, she's fully naked. So,
this is salacious.
Yeah, it's pretty. One of my favorite scenes. I'll just say that. Okay, Peter and Ann ask them to help them get to the island of Matul, where Ann's father was last heard from.
And they're just like, yeah, sure, let's go. Like, no.
He thinks about it.
He thinks about it, but that's it. Like, there's no try-fail cycle. He just like, he like scratches his beard and he
Very manly beard.
Okay, we'll do it. It's like, what?
What does he ask? He asks, you got any fishing experience? And the guy's like, yeah. And he asks the girl.
I was born on a boat.
I was born on a boat. He's like, all right.
All right, cool, let's go. And no, like, you pay, like, most writers would be like, they would set some kind of conflict up or set some kind of reason why the characters come together like this. But it's basically like, they come together because she was born on a boat? What? Or what? Like, there's no real reason. And then he even says, he's like, I'm trying to vacation. It's like, maybe, I don't know. It felt like there was a little missing something there. Like, they're literally randos.
Yeah.
Literally random fucking people. Hey, you got a boat? Hey, take us here. All right. Are you good at being on a boat? Yeah, I am. All right, let's go.
Yeah, no test.
Weird.
Throw him some rope and have him tie a knot or something.
Yeah, that was weird.
But I think it comes from that culture that was in the United States or just in the world in general, hitching rides with people.
Oh.
That was big in the 70s and 80s, and then like people finally got like smart and like, hey, this is how people get killed.
I mean, people die. People die.
And it's like, you know, I'm not for rent. Go get a rented boat. Like, maybe it's a small island, but I'd be like, it's not my problem, man.
Yeah, fuck off, dude. I'm on vacation.
I'm trying to get some.
My wife's tits are out right here, and you're standing looking at them. And they even make it look like he's looking at her tits, which was weird. Yeah. That never comes back.
Yeah. Despite Brian's claim about warnings from the superstitious locals about Matul, the four of them agree to set off together for the island. That's another thing. Don't go to an island when the locals say it's haunted or it's cursed. Like, that's rule number one.
Okay, here's the deal, though. You're not white people.
Yeah.
So that rule, white people are like, oh, something's haunted? Oh, I'm going to stick around. Or I'm going to go right into there's danger over there?
You don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I have a little camera on and a
badge or something.
And, yeah.
An ID. Well, it's also like, this is why I'm happy that Jordan Peele is making movies.
Yeah.
Because he puts people in the situation where they're like, okay, we know that people are yelling, don't go up there. And so he, quote unquote, just don't go up there, right? He would have them not go up there, but then the next thing still fucks them up.
Yeah.
So like, a cool thing in this one, if they would have been, I don't know what I'm talking about that. Whatever. All I'm saying is this was stupid. Don't do this stupid shit. Don't hitch rides with people.
I think that goes back to what we were saying. Is like I think the writers, whatever background you come from, you gotta push yourself into what's horror, and some like Jordan Peele has like a different perspective on that. So
I mean, his next movie is called Nope.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't imagine what that's gonna be like. It's gonna be great.
I'm stoked.
The other thing about these two people, Anne and Peter, they fall into that thing that happens a lot in 70s and 80s movies is our main characters meet the day of, and that night they're like having sex, and the next day they're like in love.
Yeah.
And they're willing to like sacrifice their lives for this person, which ends up happening. But it's like, it's always annoying. Like in Halloween 3, have you seen Halloween 3?
No, don't give me spoilers on Halloween, because I want to watch that movie.
Okay, but just in general, it happens a lot in 80s movies. Like, have you seen Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, but it's been a while.
Okay, well, it happens a lot in those movies where like two couples, they meet. Oh, The Stuff?
Yeah.
Remember it happens in The Stuff?
Yeah,
that sort of thing where they just meet up.
But I feel like there was some commentary on that
in the movie.
In The Stuff.
Okay.
Because she starts looking at that one guy like she's gonna. That's not the main character.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. On Matul, tensions between Dr. Menard and his contemptuous, highly strung out wife Paola Menard are running high. She wants to leave the island, terrified about reports of zombie attacks. He insists on staying to conduct research into the phenomenon, despite the fact that his medical mission is falling apart. Leaving her alone to drink her fears away at the isolated beach house, Menard drives in his Jeep to his hospital, which is a ramshackle converted church buzzing with flies. Menard's superstitious Haitian assistant, Lucas, insists that they leave, for all of the villagers of the nearby town are fleeing in fear of the rising of the dead. Dr. Menard scoffs at all this. So there's a little bit of tension between technology or science and faith.
Right? Yeah, superstition is what I would call it.
Superstition. And the introduction of his wife, like Paula, I felt like he was being so disrespectful to her, like, and so patronizing.
Well, he straight up slaps her in the face, right?
Right, and then we're also gonna get to that. But, but before that, she's trying to say is like, "Yo, I'm worried. I want to talk about this." And he was like, basically, "Don't worry your pretty little head. Don't do that. I got this. Sit down, relax." And she's like, "No, motherfucker. Like, there's reports of the dead coming back. We need to get the fuck out of here, especially on an island."
Yeah,
that's crazy. And then they're fighting, and she says something to him, and he decks her. Do you remember? Like,
yeah, I mean, he slaps her.
Slaps her, right?
Yeah.
Just fucking reaches back and slaps her, and that shit was crazy. So, are we supposed to like Dr. Menard? Or is he now?
I mean, I don't think so, because he's kind of basically the Frankenstein, the Dr. Frankenstein kind of guy, where he's really only in it to figure out what's happening with the zombie plague, whether it's a virus or whether it's a Haitian curse or what the fuck's going on. And obviously he's willing to sacrifice, at this point, his marriage. And I mean, we already know it's not going well for him or for the she mentions like something like there's not that many people left, or like we're gonna get turned into them or something. She says something like that. So we know it's like it kind of puts like a little ticking clock on them. Like she's under the impression they're not gonna last long. Oh, and you didn't mention they live in the dope ass house.
Real nice, like a villa.
Yeah, like a villa. Like no one else on this island is living like that,
Yeah.
And she wants to get the fuck out of there still.
Yeah, I feel like they're doing a good job of building a sense of dread.
Yeah.
Where, like, you can tell, like, we're taking little steps. Like, right now, the doctor feels like he can control it or contain it.
Yeah.
But it's very quickly getting out of control to the point where it's going to overtake the population and end up killing them. feels a lot like what we're living in right fucking now, right?
Yeah.
That's why these movies are so like relatable and so like timeless. Because I don't know, actually, before this coronavirus shit, I would have been like, that shit will never happen. It can't happen. And now it's like,
no, there's dumb motherfuckers who are like, I would rather die because I don't want to inject something that we know is scientifically like gonna save my life. You know, I don't know. It's like I have faith that I will live. Yeah, you think people are gonna act like before 2016? It was just like, oh yeah, well, people will act rationally in a given situation. It's like, nope. Yeah. There's like a subset of the population that will be like, what's the logical thing? Okay, cool. I'm gonna do the opposite.
We have people who will actively work against their own self-interest.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's like not a question. It's not an opinion. It's just them going against their own self-interest.
Yeah.
And then dying for it now in these days.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is a documentary, is what we're saying.
Yeah. This is the truth.
So at sea, Susan goes on a scuba dive where she gets attacked, first by a shark, then by a strange aquatic zombie. Susan gets away, leaving the zombie to fight against the shark. This is possibly one of the coolest horror scenes ever put to film, right? Like, this is a fucking cool scene. What we get next?
It's like a fucking 10 out of 10. Like, I knew you were gonna do some research, so I gotta know. Well, first off, she's basically naked in this scene.
That's right. Yeah.
And she's like hiding behind coral and dipping and dodging this shark, right?
Yeah, that scene in and of itself.
Just the cool. Shark scene is cool, where she's like trying to like outmaneuver the shark. That's cool. And then while she's hiding, a fucking hand reaches out and grabs her. That is really cool.
Yeah, so you were not expecting that.
Yeah, you're not expecting it. And then a zombie attacks her. And I had kind of heard about this scene, but I didn't know like the details of it. So it was still really effective. I just knew that there was like some kind of scene with a shark in this movie that's really good. Yeah. And this scene did not disappoint. So the arm comes out and it's just like, what the fuck? And he like starts, it's a zombie and it's like starts like strangling her, whatever. Yeah. She grabs coral and just starts scratching his face with the coral. Yeah. And she's basically naked but in scuba diving gear. The zombie, the actor, is not. Yeah. So whoever did this must have... The whole time I was thinking this, because these scenes are not shorts. They're not quick cuts.
Right.
This person must have been like holding his breath for 5 fucking minutes at a time or more, and I don't know how deep it was. Like, it must have been 20 feet deep at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just by...
to get the camera rig, to get all of that to work right. I mean, and it's literally in coral. Yeah. And there's a fucking shark in some of those scenes. I think that it was like double shot and like superimposed. That was my guess, how they got the shark in some of the scenes. But it's
like with the woman?
Yeah, with the woman. Yeah. But with the zombie, like...
He was straight up like... Yeah.
The zombie is like grabbing a... There was an actor that grabbed a fucking shark.
Yeah. So Fulci can't take credit for this scene. He didn't want to shoot it.
I could see why he didn't want to shoot it. It seemed dangerous as fuck.
Well, he thought it was silly. You know?
I don't think it... That man... Yeah. Wow. Well,
so since there was no CGI at the time and the production didn't have the budget for the animatronics, they used a real tiger shark for the zombie versus shark fight scene. And the tiger shark is one of the most dangerous shark species that exists. So the shark's trainer, Ramon Bravo, fed the shark right before filming, as well as doping the shark up with sedatives, which I know nowadays couldn't pass.
Yeah.
Or at least...
No, you would never... You'd never see anything like this ever again.
This would just be CGI. But Ramon Bravo was like a Renaissance man. I looked into him because I was really interested in who could do this. He was
a fucking madman.
He was an Olympic swimmer, so he was in the Olympics as a swimmer.
Did he play as a zombie too?
He was the zombie that was fighting the shark.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But he was also the shark trainer.
He was the shark trainer, right?
So that guy did everything.
Yeah, he did everything. He was
incredible.
He was an Olympic swimmer. He was a journalist and an author of over a dozen novels, one of which was turned into a movie called Tintoera from 1977. He was an oceanographer, and he served as Jacques Cousteau's diving guide when Cousteau was making documentaries on sharks in Mexico. And the reason why he worked with Cousteau was that Ramon Bravo, as well as another man, were responsible for finding Los Cuevones, also called Cave of the Sleeping Sharks, which is located off of La Isla de Mujeres in Riviera Maya, Cancun. Before their discovery, it was believed that sharks didn't sleep because they must be constantly moving due to the lack of a swim bladder. But these two men found that sharks seemed to be sleeping in this cave. So there's like some confluence of different temperature waters plus the different chemicals that are specifically in this cave that cause sharks to kind of go into a daze, and it looks like they sleep. And so before any of this happened, nobody had ever seen a shark sleeping. So he was responsible for finding that cave that led to this discovery. Well, him and another man. So that eventually drew the attention of Jacques Cousteau. Then he was eventually hired to write the script for his book, for one of his novels called Tintoera. And then one of the producers of this movie saw Tintoera a few years later. His name was Ugo Tucci, and he insisted that the director include a scene with a zombie fighting a shark, despite the director's protest that it would be too silly. So with Fulci refusing to shoot the scene, the producer brought in a second unit, and the plan was to use a real-life tiger shark, which is second only to the great white shark in terms of like number of recorded human fatalities. So then Ramon Bravo stepped up, did the zombie scene. Somebody else was supposed to do it, but that person backed out, and so he did it.
I mean, I would back out. What the fuck? Like,
but based on this guy's life, Ramon Bravo, like, he did everything. Why he trained with sharks? He trained sharks, I should say. Like, why the fuck not? You know. But this scene is incredible. At one point, like, the zombie gets his arm ripped off, right? And you can tell how that happened. Like, he had his one arm strapped to his body. Yeah. The other arm was just fake, and he just stuck it in there, or whatever. But yeah, man, this guy was absolutely nuts. He was insane. I would not do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious. Did that guy ever get bit by a shark?
He got bit by sharks on his heel and like on his leg. He got hurt really bad, and he had to, like, it took months for him to heal up. Well, not in this movie, but in general. He also shot polar bears up in where the fuck are the North Pole or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he lived a really
in the desert.
So I just wanted to like highlight this guy because this guy was born and died in Mexico. He's like a fucking Renaissance man. I thought he was cool.
I need to look this dude up now. Is that part of my homework?
Yeah, you gotta read his.
You gotta go kill a shark.
I do want to read Tintoera. You know, he had a bunch of novels, like I said, but he also he did the underwater scenes in License to Kill, which is a James Bond movie. You know, so he did some stuff in Hollywood. So that evening, Paola or Mrs. Menard is alone in the house, where she takes a shower to cool off in the hot and humid weather, when she hears a noise. This is coming up. This is the scene that we were all both like, fuck yeah. Investigating, she's attacked by a marauding zombie who's unseen except for a rotting, outstretched hand. And what happens, like, she tries to close the door on the zombie.
She cuts his fingers off with the edge of the door when she slams the door shut.
Yeah.
But then, those doors, because they don't have AC or whatever, there are these really thin slits on the doors to ventilate. Yeah. They have these little vents on them. And so the zombies just tear through this door, and she's, throwing all of the things that she can that are in the bathroom to separate her from the zombie. And so this door, these little vents are made of this kind of like sharp shredded wood, and they grab her by the hair, a zombie does, and just pull. It's trying to pull her out of the room to munch on her, right? And you see like all the shit that you don't ever want to see, which is the one thing people don't want to see is like a needle going to the eyeball.
Yeah.
And you see this big splintered piece of the door, her head get pulled towards it, and she's, stretching back, no, no, no. And you see it. Like, they had some kind of prosthetic, and it goes, like, right into her pupil, and you're, like, the camera's, like, a foot away from the prosthetic, and it just goes in and keeps going into her fucking brain or whatever.
It's pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah, it is crazy to watch, and it, like, the way the eyeball, like, gets gooey, they did a incredible job of, and I don't think I'd ever heard of the person who did the special effects, but, I mean, this is, like, this is just as good as special effects as you get in these kinds of movies, especially at the time. It's very Tom Savini, in fact, it's better than Tom Savini in the first Dawn of the Dead. The blood is less.
Right, let's not.
I will. The
let's
blood
not
is
go overboard.
It is though. Like the blood
the
is like.
Look a little bit cooler. I think.
They look cooler.
Yeah.
There's fucking maggots. We haven't even gotten
Maggots
to that
and
part.
Worms, yeah. The special effects were done by Giovanni Corridori and Giannetto De Rossi. I never heard of them, but they probably did a lot of Italian movies. But they did a great job here.
So sorry, Tom Savini.
But it's like you're saying, her head is slowly pulled into the shattered door frame, and she dies a horrible death as her right eye is impaled on a spike of slatted wood as she's pulled out the door. This sucked. Like, that's a crazy death that sucks for her, but like also, your both hands are free. Grab the wood, move it somewhere, slap it out of your way. It's like this agonizing slow move. If the spike into her, the piece of wood into her eye, and the whole time I'm thinking, just move it, just do something, man.
That's what you say when you're approaching the deer, and then you're like, deer, move left, move right, and it doesn't, and then you hit the deer.
So she's like a deer in headlights.
She is like a deer.
I guess she's been like, she can be in shock, right? Yeah, that's true. Sucks for her though. The next morning, Anne, Peter, Brian, and Susan arrive off the coast of Motul, where they find out that their boat has been damaged by the shark attack. They anchor in a bay off the island and set up distress flares. Dr. Menard answers their distress call as Luca and Menard's personal nurse bury more dead bodies, victims of a mysterious virus that's killing the island's residents and resurrecting them as zombies.
Well, it's actually not clear if it's a virus. It's actually... That was the thing that's stumping you this whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, how does this spread? The doctor's trying to figure that out. So he's looking at it under a microscope and he can't explain it. So because he can't explain it, then that goes into question, is it a virus? Or is it supernatural? It could be supernatural. And there's parts in this movie where things that wouldn't be infected by a virus become zombies. So,
Yeah. I wonder if they left it like that, if they wanted to, if they did it on purpose, or if it was just missed opportunity in their writing. What do you think? Do you think they did that on purpose?
Well, they actually don't say it's a virus, I don't think. He
assumes it's a virus.
He assumes it's a virus because he's not aware of, like, long dead corpses rising. So, and then we only know up until the point, like, we only know that, like, maybe recently deceased people are, killing people.
Yeah.
So, we don't even know, and then they keep saying zombie, and then the people who live on the island are thinking it's supernatural. They're thinking that it's voodoo. Mm-hmm. So, and he's thinking it's a virus. But it's never explained.
Yeah.
They don't go into any detail.
And I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but there's that one scene where he is testing his own blood.
Yeah.
And he draws like fucking a liter or a pint of his own blood for like 3 drops.
Yeah, then he drops like 3 drops or whatever, and it's like that. Like it seemed like it was gonna go the virus route, but then that's all you see. Yeah. You see him looking on it and studying it, and then being frustrated and ultimately not being able to explain what's happening.
Yeah, and I kind of also like that there's just no explanation for it.
Yeah,
because like in real life, you don't have all the time in the world to do all this research. Like zombies are taking over your island right now.
Yeah,
and so you didn't have months or years to do the research. So I kind of like how it's kind of left up in the air. The survivors are forced to shoot each corpse in the head to prevent them from reviving before burying them. And that's the other thing. When they were burying these, it's like in a foot. They're only burying them like a foot below the surface.
Yeah.
Which I hate. And I've talked about in a previous episode where that, you have to bury them like 6 feet deep. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything.
You only need 6 inches, dude. That's what they say.
Okay. Yeah.
You're only
anything else is like a waste.
You're supposed to do shallow graves. It's more friendly for the environment.
Well, who cares about the environment? We're talking about zombies here.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, sure. Yeah, I agree. I thought you were talking about a green burial.
Oh, no, you fucking...
6 feet? I mean, yeah. Throw them in the water. I don't know.
Well,
chop them in a little bit. Set them on fire. You don't even need to bury their ass.
Yeah, don't throw them in the water. That's how you got the water zombie from earlier. Then you're going to fuck up your drinking supply.
Yeah.
If you throw them in your river or something.
Oh, even someone says, like, whenever the blah blahs, when the dead rise up, heaven's overflowing or hell's overflowing. They actually have a line like this in this movie. The Haitian guy says it.
So you're saying when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth?
They had a line it wasn't that exact line, but it was very similar, and it's the assistant says it to the doctor, and then the doctor kind of cuts him off before he can really finish that line. But he starts saying it, and the doctor's like, no, it's, there's an explanation for this. Yeah. Meanwhile, he's shooting. The only, real scientific thing that they do is just, the only thing that solves it is shooting them in the head.
I wonder if they've, tried ivermectin.
Right? No, it's get the zombies to shit their brains out.
I heard that was really helpful.
Some of those zombies needed it, because some of those zombies had worms coming out of their eyeballs.
It would have helped them.
It would have helped the zombies.
Yeah. If only the MSM would stop talking bad about them. On the drive back to the hospital, Dr. Bernard tells his 4 visitors that Anne's father died 3 months earlier from the strange disease plaguing the island. And this is where we see that the person at the beginning of the movie who got shot was Anne's father. Remember,
yeah.
It was covered in all white, and that was her father. Dr. Bernard also tells the visitors that the zombie epidemic, so far on the other side of the island, is blamed by the locals on the voodoo curses of an evil witch doctor. Okay. When they arrive at the hospital, Menard's nurse informs him that a friend has been taken ill. Menard then asks Peter, Anne, Brian, and Susan to drive over to his house and check on the safety of his wife. Which,
bro, this guy sucks. He's so like Dr. Frankenstein. Check in on my wife, man.
That's you're gonna send 4 people that you literally
4 rando. I mean, those dudes might be fucking cutthroats.
You just met them. However long it takes to you from where you picked them up to where you got. That's like an Uber driver or a Lyft driver being like, "Hey,
Also, they're on an island that they've never been on.
How do they get there? Right?
It's just and he just kind of vaguely is like, oh, it's, drive up that road. And they're even like, I don't know if we passed it, when they're looking to find her. Oh, I don't know. And then, I don't know if we're ready to get into what happens when they find her, but she's we already know that she's dead. The audience knows that she's dead, and you're just like kind of like waiting. This is going to be a fucking shock.
Yeah.
And well, what's also weird is they don't talk enough to the girl who's already had. She's like, I saw a man down in the water.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
don't. They kind of just they're just like, oh, weird.
Well, okay, but to be fair to that point, like,
she did get attacked by a shark.
She got attacked by a shark, so she could be in shock. But also, if you're scuba diving and your friend comes up and like, "Yo, I just saw a zombie down there," you're like, "Shut the fuck up." Or you could be like, "Hey, let me
confirm that."
Yeah, but also, if the shark bit off the zombie's head, there was all Jesus Christ. If the shark bit off the zombie's arm, there was all that blood. Wouldn't the blood come up to the surface?
It was like all rotted blood, though.
Yeah. Yeah. If they had any respect, if that dude had any respect for his girl, he'd be like, well, let me throw on the scuba diving equipment. Let me go see.
Yeah, let me go check on that guy down there.
But he doesn't believe her. He just thinks he's...
Yeah, they're like, oh, weird. And then that's it. And then now you're like, okay, why didn't they talk about that? Well, they're actually going to find out what that girl already knows. And so they come in, and it's just like these zombies are like having a feast on this lady's corpse.
At first there was one zombie. Now she's surrounded by zombies.
Yeah, it's just infested with zombies, and they're all just eating her a lot. Or she's been dead for a while. And it's a really graphic scene that looks really cool. And then, like, they're like, oh, shit. And then, like, they get cornered by zombies and they gotta fight their way out.
Yeah,
but they don't know, like, at this point, like, they're not thinking, oh, I gotta hit them in the head. In fact, for a lot of this movie, the only people that are shooting them in the head repeatedly is the doctor. Because he's the only one that knows that. And then he doesn't really, like, fully explain that to them. So they're just, in this scene, they fight the zombies off and then they run away. Yeah. They get in their car and fucking...
A zombie wanders out into their path and the driver, like, swerves out of the way, but doesn't over...
He doesn't brake?
Yeah.
Too?
So it swerves off the road into some, like, the tropical undergrowth. And the stupidest thing here happens. But I understand that they need to immobilize one of the men or whatever. But, like, Peter's left ankle is quote-unquote broken upon impact. But the group decide they must make it back to the hospital. But, like, it's, like, cartoonishly broken with, like, blood coming out. So that means, like, skin
How
was
did that
punctured.
happen?
Yeah. I mean, they weren't going that fast. I don't know.
That was stupid.
Lame.
Yeah.
But while that's happening, Dr. Menard is talking with his friend Fritz, who claims that he was bitten by a zombie in the village. And Dr. Menard orders Lucas to lock all the doors and windows because he's now aware that the zombies are approaching this end of the island. A little later, the group stops for a rest in a small jungle clearing, which they see is an old cemetery for the Spanish conquistadors. You could relate to these conquistadors because you're a colonizer, right? So you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, but you could relate because one of their names was Carlos.
And there was a Miguel earlier.
Yeah, and someone said Miguel,
yeah.
So
that was cool. I really felt seen. As there's not a lot of Zachs in movies.
Zach's a bad name.
It is a bad name.
It's a bad name.
There's a lot of Zach actors.
Yeah, but
not in movies, like their character names. It doesn't feel nice to say the word
I don't
Zach.
like it. I don't like it.
Yeah. As Peter and Anne lie down on the ground for rest because Peter's injured, the buried conquistadors emerge from the soil. Why?
I don't know. You should ask that doctor.
What?
Why?
He wasn't responsible for it, right? He's just
but you are asking the same questions that doctor is asking the entire movie. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? They're fucking zombies, dude. I don't know why any of this shit's happening.
So we just have to accept the conceit that zombies are happening in this, just like if you're watching Night of the Living Dead.
It's the same thing. They come out of their graves in Night of the Living Dead.
But what is throwing me off about this is that in Night of the Living Dead, there's no scientist trying to figure it out, and we're not giving little clues about it. It just happens, and that's fine. In this one, he's actively trying to figure it out, and we, as the audience, are privy to scenes in which he's trying to figure it out, but it's never explained.
Miguel, this is very interesting. Do you identify with the scientist?
I think I do. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. So,
why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm psychoanalyzing you. So you need order and you need structure, and this movie is not giving you that.
Right, but I still like it. I want the answer. I want to know why, but also I like that they didn't. So I'm also kind of...
Well, it's like it's cool because it's like why it doesn't piss me off why we don't know, because you don't know in those other zombie movies, like when they come out
dead, they make a
comet.
Yeah, they make
whatever, a comet comes down. So it's the same thing, But or is it if it's just this movie, maybe just the writing part before the little bookends were written, maybe it's just this island is cursed. But because of the bookends, it makes it seem like it's further reaching than that, and than just the island. But there's a case to say, was there some kind of curse that happened on the island and then it's spreading?
Yeah.
Or is it a virus that the doctor can't figure out? But then why is it infecting conquistadors who've been long dead?
Yeah.
So who knows? But
we get to see more zombies. That's all that matters. And these zombies are the awesome ones.
Yeah.
One of them grabs Anne by her hair, while another grabs Peter by his broken ankle. Really fucking gory scene here, where he grabs the ankle and like twists it and like breaks it or whatever.
Yeah. The other really gory scene is like when one of them bites her throat out, and then just blood is just gushing out of her jugular throat, and it just looks like, it's so gross looking. It looks like you can see her trachea. It's done so well.
Yeah. So Peter and Anne are the ones they're able to break free, but Susan isn't so lucky. Frozen in terror. That's what happened. Like another woman that's frozen in terror.
But a dude gets frozen in terror.
That's true. So she's frozen in terror by the sight of a large worm-faced zombie.
I mean, this was an actor. This is from the cover, I think.
One of these ones, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like these worms are squirming around on this guy's face, and
alive.
some of them have them in their mouths. So squirming around in their mouths. I mean, they might have had some kind of barrier between their tongue and their teeth and the worms and stuff. Yeah. Because it looked like there maybe was like some kind of mache or something on them, or a retainer or something. But like, these people are covered in blood, guts. I mean, maybe it's not real, but the worms are fucking real. They're moving around. Yeah. And the maggots too. I'm not sure if it's in this scene or if it was in an earlier scene or a later scene, but there is maggots like all over one of these zombies, and that's fucking disgusting to have on you.
Yeah, these zombies have a definite different look to them than like a Romero zombie.
They're more graphic. Like, they're more visceral. Like, you can smell them. Yeah, man, the look of these zombies is it could be the pinnacle of how zombies look, because it's not quite as like graphic and refined as in Day of the Dead, but it's kind of in between Day of the Dead as far as gore wise and Dawn. Like, the blood looks a little bit more real, like in Day. It's not like that kind of super vibrant Technicolor looking like in Dawn. Yeah. And the way the blood just gushes out is a little bit more like Dawn of the Dead than Day of the Dead. So it's a little bit, in that one scene was a little bit more cartoony, but it looks real. And the fact that there's actual, worms and like matter, like it's organic. They feel fucking organic. It reminds me of the scene where that one guy's getting pulled apart in Day of the Dead, where it's like, and you hear like the actors talk about having been on that and how disgusting that was because they used real like intestines
and how much it smelled.
How it's the refrigerator went bad and it stank.
But also like that scene that we're talking about, like they go the extra mile because when they're pulling the guy apart, his vocal cord is stretched and
He's like,
and it's like, oh my god, it's so good. And they go the extra mile here because they put the maggots and all that, you know, in the costume. So yeah, it's great. I really liked it. It's amazing. Okay, so
I mean, they kill that bitch. That's
so
that girl.
Susan gets killed.
The cool. Okay, this is a thing. If I'm gonna critique this movie, this is a problem with it. This girl fucking fought a zombie off before. We saw her fight the zombie in the shark. She's a badass. And it's just like, for no fucking reason, like you said earlier, she just stammers in fright and goes into shock, and then they rip her jugular out. And it's like, that sucks. Like, why didn't she go into shock with a shark and a zombie? Way more stressful situation.
Yeah.
This girl's a badass. It made no sense. It would have been cooler if that other girl had died, because we didn't establish her as being a fucking badass like this girl.
Yeah. In their defense, like, I agree 100% with everything you're saying. In their defense, the filmmaker's defense, these are the slow zombies, right? So if she runs, she's okay.
Yeah.
So they need her to, like, freeze and tear. That's the thing with zombies, right? One by one, they're not really a threat.
Yeah.
Unless you fucking just stand there.
Yeah.
Like she does. It's more when they start becoming groups or hordes that you have to worry. So it sucks the way she died. I agree. She was as a character, she deserved a better death.
Or even to survive.
Or to survive.
She was cool.
Yeah. So Peter and Brian kill that zombie. They bash the zombie's head in. Then the three survivors are now obliged to make the journey back to the hospital as the living dead erupt from their tombs all over the island, as well as stalk the deserted shanty village nearby. So now, like, it's reached the crescendo. Like, the doctor can no longer say that it's all under control or anything like that. He's lost control of the island. Also, why is he in control of the island? Why is this white man on an island, like, the sole authority of here? Like, does he own it? Did they say that? Like,
I think he was just doing his medical research.
Yeah, and then everybody just, like, defaulted to him as the leader.
Yeah.
Because, like, where's the local government? We don't see any police.
No, I don't think they're.
It's just a private island with a small
villages. I think those smaller islands don't have that kind of thing.
They don't have they don't have like a council or anything.
Well, no, I think they would have like a council, but they wouldn't have like a,
government,
some kind of big overarching. I mean, how many? It's like a small village. You don't even need a government, Yeah. And if all your elders are dying, then those would be the people that would be your quote unquote government. So that's why it would just be like, well, there's nothing really in place but this fucking random doctor who thinks he's the boss or whatever.
So at nightfall, Anne, Peter, and Brian finally arrive back at the hospital. Dr. Menard tends to Peter's broken ankle, while Brian helps Lucas and the nurse barricade the doors and the windows. Menard is informed to his wife's fate, but he does not comment on it. He doesn't give a fuck about her. Like, they tell him that she died, and he doesn't react.
That dude sucks. He should have been more of a, like, if we're gonna really critique, this is a great movie, but if I were gonna remake this, or if I would just, like, try to push this movie a little bit further, I would just make him a straight up villain. Yeah, that's because like, there's enough about this guy where he's not twirling his mustache. Like, he is trying to help these people. But what would be kind of cool, like, is just to go bananas with him. Make him like the sergeant in Day of the Dead, where it's like, there's no redeeming qualities about this guy. Yeah. Like, maybe he's using the Islanders or something for his research purpose. Maybe, instead of the stupid scene where he's, taking blood out of himself and putting it and see how it reacts with, the saliva. What if he injected saliva in someone and turned them into a zombie? then we would know, okay, this guy's no fucking good, and he's science gone wrong. You know, that's how I would push this movie a little bit. It's a great movie. That's my little push in the right direction.
Right, because we don't know. I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah.
Right? He's a wife beater, so fuck him. But also, like, he's trying to help people. He's a man of science, but also he's doing it his way, which is not the help that they need at that particular moment. Like, there's a time to study, the effects of the sickness and the illness and all that, and then there's a time for action. And I think he waited too long, and so it's a bit of tragic there. But he's just a straight up, he's a villain. He's villainous. But I think I don't know if it's. What I'm struggling with is if the filmmakers saw him as a hero, and we're just seeing it differently in our age.
Yeah, I think maybe I think the filmmakers saw him more as a tragic hero because back then they probably, I don't know, those dudes, they probably hit their wives. Like, you know, they're bad fucking people in the 70s, and that was like normalized. We know better now. Don't fucking do that. You're a villain if you do that. So that's one of the things why I think that. The other reason is like he's flawed in that he's pushed to, like Dr. Frankenstein, he's trying to find either a cure or an explanation for this thing. That's his drive. And that's like in somewhat is a flawed heroic drive. Like he's not able to obtain that, but it's not, and he's not as villain. He doesn't have villainous ways of getting that. Like he's experimenting with his own blood, you know. Yeah. But if they had just made him just a little bit more sinister and a little bit like more, I don't give a fuck about these people, because it is clear like he does feel sad when his assistants die and when his bros die or whatever. Her dad died. He does feel remorse. But it would be cool to see a version of this movie where he's more like the, mustache twirling kind of villain.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with that. Because now zombies are just like how we see zombies. They're a force of nature. And the real villains are the characters that become worse. Like the human characters that become more villainous because of the zombies. Right. So that's how zombies are done now. So that's how I would do this movie now.
I feel like there's a time for nuance, and I feel like they gave this doctor too much nuance.
Yeah.
So it was a bit confusing as far as character motivation was concerned for me. But instead of commenting on his wife's death, he raves about his failed efforts to find a scientific explanation for the Walking Dead and their instinct to feed on human flesh. Suddenly, a large group of the tottering, implacable creatures tries to batter down the boarded-up front door. Menard and the group begin to construct barricades as well as make Molotov cocktails from the kerosene tanks. Here's what I don't understand. You're in an enclosed space that's made of wood. Why is your first instinct to make bombs? Molotov cocktails that are gonna, when you throw them, causes fire. Yeah. What's the idea here? You catch a zombie on fire, he continues to walk your way and spreads the fire, or even if it doesn't, it explodes and catches the rest of the structure on fire.
They weren't thinking.
I mean, did that make sense to you? Is it? Were you fine with that?
I
think it's cool.
I was fine with it because I was thinking that I was thinking they were going to burn that bitch down and try to escape. I was thinking maybe they would like lure zombies in there and then burn them out. But like, there's just so many. I mean, the island isn't huge and it doesn't have a huge population, but the fact that they're coming back from the dead, it's like, well, there wasn't a lot of people on this island to begin with, but how many people have died on this island before? Like, how many conquistadors were there? How many? Like, you could really... I mean, they're basically fucked. Like, there's a lot of potential zombies that could be coming back from the grave, Yeah. So, and at first, they do a good job. Like, at first, it's just a couple that come towards them and start banging. And like you said, they don't have their arms up. They're just, like, kind of shambling and smashing the It's almost like a barn. They're like smashing this like barn door,
Yeah.
trying to get in. Yeah, and eventually they overrun the place, and these people get picked off like, one by one.
Yeah, because they're in a hospital. It's like a church converted to a hospital sort of thing, but it's big inside like a barn, like you were saying. And then the patients start dying and coming back as zombies while this group is trying to fight back. So now the hospital is under attack from inside and outside.
Yeah.
And Dr. Menard is the first to go when he gets his face ripped off by his friend, who's now turned zombie, Fritz, before Brian kills Fritz with a gunshot to the head, which is, we know, the only way of killing the zombies.
Yeah, but like, we as the audience know that because we have seen the doctor do that, but I'm not sure that the doctor explains that at any point to anyone. So it's like,
yeah,
because the main characters, they shoot the zombies like multiple times, like in the chest. The only person that only ever shoots people in the head is the doctor. So he knows that, and he's doing a fucking shitty job of communicating that to the other people. Other people like waste a lot of ammo, they do a lot of body shots. Just, why didn't he explain that?
Yeah, it's like really helpful information.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to know. Like, at first you would try a body shot or something like that.
Yeah.
That does maybe go to the head. I don't know.
I don't get why the main characters didn't learn faster. Because even they had gotten multiple zombie kills, and they were still doing body shots throughout the whole movie. And they watch him. Like, he would shoot this guy in the chest with a shotgun, watch him, like, stumble back, and then get back up, and then do it again. It's like, why? You just killed a guy by shooting him in the head. So it just, that's cool, but it wasn't, like, it kind of made the character seem a little dumb to me.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just not accurate. But you have a shotgun, you don't need to be accurate. It's just point up. Like,
Shoddy sniper.
Shoddy snipers.
So Lucas is the next to die when he gets part of his arm bitten off by another zombie. The nurse is then killed by zombie Lucas. So the virus is going quicker now, right?
Yeah.
It takes a couple days for the people in the hospital to die, but when you're bitten, you turn quicker. The nurse is then killed by zombie Lucas, who then attacks Anne, but gets shot dead by Peter. So the mob of zombies finally breaks down the front door, and a climactic battle between the three survivors and the zombies begins, with fire apparently the only effective weapon against the slow-moving walking stiffs. With the hospital now on fire from the exploding Molotov cocktails, Anne, Peter, and Brian are forced to flee from the burning building out the back door. But outside, Brian comes face to face with the walking corpse of the resurrected Susan. He succumbs to emotion and gets badly bitten on his arm as a result. The zombie Susan is immediately shot and killed by Peter, and the trio run for the beach with some zombies not far behind. So I know earlier they showed a scene of like the village, and it was kind of deserted, and there might have been some bodies, on the ground or whatever. But like, what happened to the rest of it? Like, they only concern is like this small group of people, not the people.
Well, maybe they had all died.
Like, so you think everybody?
Well, if it's a virus, are they breathing it in? Are they getting like?
Yeah, so they're all dead, and now the only people that are left alive are these three on the whole island.
That's it. They were kind of making it seem like everyone was either dead or like a patient or like maybe they had holed up. But I mean, at this point, with the things coming out of their graves, then anyone else is just fucked. So, but yeah, we don't get to know about them. It didn't seem like there was a lot of people on the island.
Yeah,
maybe a couple dozen, like 50 people max.
So as dawn breaks, the jerry-rigged boat limps back out to sea. Brian sinks into unconsciousness, terminally sick from the zombie bite, and soon dies. Peter and Anne lock the dead Brian up in the boat's cabin because Peter wants the dead Brian as proof to the authorities that the whole experience happened. Turning on the radio, Peter and Anne listen in disbelief as a radio announcer explains about a zombie epidemic gripping New York City, apparently brought on by the zombie from the opening scene. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Miguel, you got that?
I was slow on that one. Down in the cabin, Brian's reanimated corpse frantically tries to get out of the hole that it is locked up in. So this is kind of like, if you stop to think about it, they just left the zombie the island where everybody was dead. They have this one zombie down in their hull. The only other place they were going to go to, America or New York, is overrun by zombies. They're just out to sea now. Where do they go? They don't need the. They don't.
Yeah,
need
I
the
know. I love that they made that decision, and then it ended up being a bad decision because it's obvious that that there are zombies, and so now they're stuck on a boat with a fucking zombie inside of the boat. They can't go in the cabin now. So like, if there's a storm or something,
or they're just exposed to like sun.
Yeah, they're just exposed to like the elements.
Yeah, they're fucked. It's very bleak.
I love how bleak the ending is. And then actually, there's multiple shots of like all these zombies in New York, which are pretty cool. There's normal traffic, which is kind of, it really takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But, because you'd think if there were people like driving around, they would be like driving like crazy.
Yeah, so we're back in New York, and there's that long line of freshly dead zombies slowly marching across the Brooklyn Bridge into Manhattan, and then the movie ends. Like you're saying, we are looking at the top of the bridge, but we can see below the cars rushing back and forth. And I was looking it up, and they literally said the production could not afford to shut down the bridge.
Yeah, wasn't this like not an expensively filmed movie?
So the budget of this was 410 million lira, so whatever that means, and then the box office was 3 billion lira. So it looks like they made back their money just in Italy, and then with all the selling out, to foreign markets, they probably made a shit ton.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the movie. That is Zombie. So what'd you think of the movie?
Well, like I said, I think it's a great movie. I think it's well worth watching. I think it's a must-see if you're a zombie fan, which ebb and flow, but yeah, like I like zombie stuff. I'm not obsessed with it, but like I said earlier, I like it. Definitely must-see for zombie stuff, zombie fans.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best zombie movies ever made.
That's not Romero.
That's not Romero, right? It's so gritty, and it's so like it's well shot. Like it's fast paced. It's well paced. You don't really get bored.
No.
With it, the story, the plot is what it is. It's fairly straightforward.
But at the time, I feel like it was less straightforward. Just because there was only one or a couple of zombie movies like it. You know, so I think, especially at the time, it's pretty crazy stuff. Yeah. Now it's like there's a video game called Zombie Island, Yeah. So there's 2 video games, called Zombie Island. This was a video nasty, right?
Yeah, it was a video nasty.
What does that mean? That has something to do with it being like outlawed in Britain?
Yeah, so there was whenever they made that film board, I don't know if it was the late 70s or the 80s, but it was in a response to the horror films that were being made around that time. So they created this video nasty list, and it's basically being banned unless you do heavy edits. And to the point where it'll be a different movie if you do the edits. So some people didn't even do their edits. There were some movies that were like still on the video nasty list up until like the mid 2000s, like that they came out in the 80s.
Wow.
I think they stopped using that video nasty list now. But you still have to submit, but they'll just get like a rated R now or something like that,
Yeah.
So.
But but this would have come out in America just fine.
I don't think it had a lot of any censorship when it came to America.
Wow. Yeah. I'm interested. I heard it got a sequel.
Yeah, it did have which is Zombie 3.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but Fulci did direct that one, so I think I want to see that. Fulci did also direct a bunch of other horror movies. Well, he's obviously a horror movie director, but he's best known, I think, for his Gates of Hell trilogy, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But I wanted to get your rating on this movie. Out of 5 upside down crosses, how many crosses would you give this?
Ooh, yeah, 3.5 or 4. Yeah, I guess 3.5 for just the movie for the regular audience, but for like a gore hound, it would be like a 4 because the gore is insanely good.
Yeah, I think it's a real fun movie to watch with a group of people. The special effects are insane. The plot is great. I mean, it's all around just a great movie. Like, this is probably the second movie I've watched it. The second time I've watched the movie, but it was still fun to watch. So I would agree. I think I can go 4 upside down crosses with this one.
So we're in agreement.
We're in agreement. I don't think we were in agreement last time.
I don't think so.
And this is great because zombies were actually my favorite genre for a long time. I would seek down every single movie. And this has, like, I love Night of the Living Dead. I love everything Romero, but I like the Italian take on the zombie movies. They're pretty good.
I think it's a little bit like it's a little more gritty.
Yeah.
It's a little more raw. Not as refined, so maybe the movie's not technically as good, but then you get a different quality to the zombie, which is really cool. Like, to see a more organic zombie is really gross.
Some iconic zombie makeup. Zach, so as you know, now that you've confessed your sin, we'll go ahead and absolve you of your horror movie sin. And in order to get this absolution, I will be assigning you 3 horror movies that you need to watch, Zach.
Okay.
We've talked about this already.
All right.
I don't want to see you burn in the fiery pits of hell. So
yeah,
they're starting to stack up now.
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah,
the movies I gotta watch.
Next time you come on, and if you don't watch any of these,
I'm busted.
So actually, this is really easy because, as I was saying, Lucio Fulci actually directed a trilogy of movies unofficially called like the Gates of Hell trilogy, and that includes City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and The House by the Cemetery. I've seen all these movies, and I kind of love them all, but The Beyond is really great. I'm surprised you haven't seen it just because it does hold like such a high place for a lot of horror fans, but yeah, I think you'd really love this, and we should definitely check these out.
Do you like them more than Zombie?
That's hard. I like them differently.
Okay, but they're like on par, or maybe better.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy to see it. I'm sure Arrow probably has like a box set. I might even buy the box set.
So there's like a Blu-ray released by Cinema Cult that has all 3 movies together. But Cinema Cult, I think, is like an Australian company, and so I don't know if that's like whatever those tier 3 or what do they call them?
Region locked
sort of thing. But if you gotta unlock things, but I think you could find these streaming as well. All right, Zach. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast again. I really appreciate it. Why don't you again tell the people where they can follow you or any projects you got coming up?
At Chappy Zach on Twitter, Instagram, same thing. I'll be talking about House of Blood whenever it gets released. I got something else called A Haunting on Mars that eventually is going to be released. I don't know. I'm talking to a couple publishers about it. It's also a comic book. So that's where I'm at. Follow me on the socials if you want more information, and I'll be doing a Kickstarter at some point.
Yeah, when you do that Kickstarter, you can come back and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about some other haunted house movie or something that I haven't seen.
All right, so if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at MHCPod. You can follow me on Instagram at MyHorrorConfessional. If you want to email me, you can email me at myhorrorconfessional@gmail.com. The music was done by some nobody called Taylor Fox.
Great Hag is her band name.
Really?
Great Hag, yeah. And that's actually an allusion. An allusion? It alludes to when she was playing DBD, and she beat someone, and they messaged her account, and they said, "You're a great hag," like because she was playing as the hag in that game, and Taylor was like, "Oh, that'd be a good band name," so she made her band's called Great Hag.
Oh, that's awesome. No more Tiny Fox.
No more Tiny Fox.
All right. You can follow her on Instagram at the Taylor Fox. Does she have is it Great Hag Instagram?
Yeah, look it up. I'm sure she'll have one. She's gonna need to start making that. She's recording an album next month.
Awesome. And the artwork was done by Captain Mikey Art. You can follow him on Instagram at Captain_Mikey_art. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.